Hi, I'm Paul. For this video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about truth. What is ultimate truth? I did a video yesterday on this, so you might want to have a look at that. I'm also going to talk a bit about Plato's cave. I'm going to use this against my story or alongside my story to try and help understand what I'm talking about. So yesterday in my video uh, about truth, what I came to at the end was that truth is everything that doesn't include memory, doesn't include thought. In other words, if I was to say that I know you, I can only really know you by not knowing you. You see, what I'm referring to here is if I know you and I go into my memories to try to describe you, or I have ideas about you, then the knowing that I'm doing is knowing the memories in my head and not knowing you. So, like I say, ultimate truth is everything that doesn't have memory in it, or descriptions, or ideas, or words. So, I think to start off this video, I'm going to talk about my first session in therapy. I think this was my very first one. And when I went into therapy, I had previously drawn a picture. I didn't really understand what this picture was actually describing fully, but I had insight to know how to draw the picture or what to draw. And the picture which I drew, if you can imagine a picture of a person, an adult, and then behind an adult there was a big fence, and it was like a really big security fence, barbed wire all over it. And then behind the fence was a little me, a child me. And when I went to my first therapy session, I said that I don't really fully understand it, but this is a picture that I drew, and the best way I could explain it is this adult me in front of the fence was protecting the child me. And so essentially what I was saying is I can't let anything in past that fence to the child. It kind of felt like the child was extremely vulnerable and fragile, and I had to try to defend. I'm going to use the word reality now from the child. So in a sense, the adult on the front of the fence was kind of like God. See, the way that the God works is it adjusts truth into a form of reality, so that what does get through to the child behind the fence is kind of a controlled reality, which is a lot easier for the child to accept, I guess. So in other words, what I'm kind of saying here is the adult in front of the fence was kind of like seeing a shadow of the world, because instead of seeing truth, the adult was making up a truth. It was seeing the word, the description of the world, the map of the world, but not seeing. It wasn't observing the world itself. It was just seeing a description of the world. And I think we're all in this same boat. And now that I'm coming to the point that this adult in front of the fence was only seeing a shadow of the world, if you do know the Plato's cave story, you'll know where I'm going here. I think there was something else I wanted to say in there. I'm not sure. I'll get back to it if I think of it. So the Plato's cave story was, I'm sure it was said that it was an experiment that we did, but I don't know whether I agree with the idea of it's an experiment, but that doesn't mean it changes anything. So I guess for this description, I'm just going to say it wasn't so much an experiment, but let's just look at the idea of it. So Plato's cave was where there was three men in a cave, and they was chained up to face a wall, and behind them was a fire, which created light. And they would randomly have things or people walk past the three men who were chained up behind them. So the three men only seen the shadows on the wall, which was projected from the fire. So doing this throughout their whole life of being chained up in a cave and not seeing true reality, they started to believe that the shadows on the wall was reality. So this is like saying that they only see the shadow of reality and not reality itself, which is what I was just explaining with the person in front of the fence was changing reality so that the child behind the fence didn't get hurt, which in other words is seeing a shadow of reality and not reality itself. So the three men who were chained up was in a cave. Now, I've tried working with quite a few people in the past, and one thing I start to recognize is when people do go to therapy, when they start working on themselves, we start to recognize that they've got a self who's perhaps in an eggshell, trying to get out, or as they're starting to heal, and the eggshell starts to crack and the true self could start popping out. But quite a lot of the time, people describe themselves as being in a cave. Now, in my therapy, my last session, I think it was probably about a year and a half from the idea of the barbed wire fence. My last session, it changed from a barbed wire fence to me being in a cave. So there was a child me inside of a cave. The door of the cave was kind of like a force field. And as we'd gone through therapy, we had kind of made it easier for this child to come out of the cave, and eventually the child came through the force field and came out into reality. And that was pretty much my last session, and things for me changed massively at that point. And this is kind of to say that when the child comes out of the cave, the child starts to see reality as truth, which is to feel, to observe reality without having the descriptions put over it by, let's say, the protector, but we could also say perhaps maybe this is the ego. So when I say that in my therapy the last session was me in a cave, I mean I was already working towards a cave anyway, but I'm kind of wondering with this Plato's cave idea, it probably has more hidden secrets in it than what it first sounds, because they was in a cave. They only seen a shadow of reality and not truth itself. I should be careful with using the word reality. I mean truth. Reality is just your perception, whether it's truth or not. So, as I was just saying, that the three men in the cave only seen a shadow, and then one of them managed to escape and then left the cave, therefore to see true reality itself. And then when he went back into the cave to tell the other two that there is actually a reality beyond reality, which is in a sense to say the child is seeing the world and not a description of the world. So when he came back to speak to the two men got awfully angry I can't remember in the story. I don't know if how well they killed him or something along that lines, because he was trying to talk of the truth. And you see, many people don't want to hear the truth, because it seems that many people have got their true self hidden in a cave, protected. So let's look at this idea and look at perhaps someone who would be more uh, more on the far end of the scale of protecting their true self in a cave or an eggshell or whatever you want to say. So this would be a person who would normally class as having quite a strong ego or strong defense mechanism. So someone who's very strong with opinion of their reality of the world rather than seeing the truth. Maybe you've heard of an external locus of control before. So, an external locus of control. Let's just say that if that was me, my child inside of the barbed wire fence or the cave would be the real me. It would be the me who feels the world, the truth, the reality. And this is where all of my feelings are. I'm not going to say emotions. You can use emotions if you want, but this is where I feel the world. And having a strong defense mechanism, I guess, would stop me from feeling my feelings, because I would be fixated into the words, the descriptions, the map of the world, rather than being able to feel it. So the thing is, if I've got myself shut out entirely, so I've got my child completely and utterly shut out, this would just be to say that I've got the part of my brain that feels closed off. So I have no access to it. And if I have no access, this means that I can't control my feelings. In other words, my feelings would be acting out themselves and there's nothing I can do about it. So I could be hurt and then I couldn't fix that. So what I then have to do is try to control the external world. If I can't control my internal world, I need to control the outside world to protect the inside world. So in a sense, we would say these people who are quite strong ego-minded, strong-minded, don't appear to have anxiety, don't appear to have fear. They seem to be quite fast-moving, always running, always dodging. Many seem to be successful, but they seem to be quite strong-minded. So we could say they don't have anxiety, but I don't think this is true. I think the child inside of a cave is absolutely full of anxiety, but they've managed to, let's say, stay away from it and appear to be very, very good at staying away from it. We could also look on the other end of the scale to that, to somebody who, let's say, has virtually got no ego. So this would mean that the person who's got no ego would be the child inside of a cave, only it wouldn't be in the cave anymore. It would be the child living life in the world, seeing the truth. And yet this person would also have no anxiety. Only this person would really have no anxiety because there's no conflict. The child is out seeing the world exactly as it is. There's no God or protector there trying to change reality. And anxiety is just the conflict between the truth and the idea of the self, or we can say that if we doubt ourselves or dislike ourselves and we go and meet somebody, we have that idea that we could be disliked, so we try to act a little bit harder on trying to be liked, and then this is a conflict from the truth, and this causes anxiety in the same way as lying to somebody causes anxiety because it's not the truth. So you can see on one end of the scale you've got a person who seems to be highly confident, doesn't appear to have anxiety, but then the truth is they're just doing a good job at running away from it, running away from the true self, the child. And then you've got a person who's fully accepted the child, fully accepted the truth, and therefore doesn't have an anxiety. And then you've got people somewhere in the middle. And I think this middle ground is kind of where people who suffer anxiety a lot more are. Because these are the people who kind of see the truth. They've got the ability to see the truth, but are trying to find it, perhaps. So they're trying to find their true self who is wounded, maybe in a cave, or scared, fragile. But then the world on the outside tells you that you need to be much more. That you need to be a different way, not follow the idea of the truth. And I think these people are the people who see the truth, or perhaps have an idea that something's wrong, but therefore are still acting, trying to be somebody. And I think it seems these are the people who see the anxiety a lot more than others. So the main idea of this video was about truth. And the reason why I'm talking about the child in the cave, because I think that's like the true self. That's the one what sees. It doesn't seem to have that thought process. Or thought process about the eye, should I say. So it doesn't really see a map of the world so much. It just observes. When I say this thought process, you see, it's hard for us to understand this thought thing, because we kind of say that to see the truth, you've got to get rid of thought. But you can't get rid of thought. It seems that some thoughts don't seem to cause any suffering, and some thoughts do. Perhaps we could say that when we do have a thought, these thoughts tend to be about the I. You see, this is the type of thought which tries to change reality in a way that's much more comfortable. But then we could also say that there's intelligence. You see, we do need to have intelligence to do tasks that we do. And this intelligence seems to be a lot different to thought. See, it doesn't carry any suffering. It seems as if the thought that we're all referring to, which we want to get rid of, see, this thought always seems to be trying to chase security. It's always trying to change truth into something different, more comfortable. Tries to cling on to things. In a sense, it's like it's saying, it's trying to find security, which it can never find, because the whole idea of finding security means that you've got to secure yourself onto something. And by securing yourself onto something, only creates insecurity. But then this intelligence type of thinking, a sort of intelligence that helps you do tasks. You see, that doesn't seem to have the same idea of chasing security. It doesn't want to cling on to something. It just is security in itself. So I think I've pretty much run out of things to say. I don't really know what else to say now. But like I said in my last video, I think truth itself, the ultimate truth, which I don't think we could possibly actually reach, but truth itself is only when the thoughts aren't there. In other words, when we don't use our memory. I look at something, then I go into my memory, into the past, make a description out of the past, project it into the future, and then that means that the thing itself is now the description that I made. And we can say that when I look at the thing and go into my memories, we're going into the past, then projecting it into the future, and both these past and futures is time. You see, truth, ultimate truth, doesn't exist in time. Ultimate truth is just the now, this moment. In other words, this moment without psychologically moving into memories, moving into the past and projecting into the future. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's all I've got to say. Thanks so much for listening.